This Health Ranger Report Pandemic Podcast is brought to you by NaturalNews.com for uncensored reporting and HealthRangerStore.com for lab-tested preparedness supplies such as storable food, full-face medical masks, biostructured silver first aid gel, and iodine, only while supplies last. The big breaking news today is that the CDC has new projections. They've handed them over to the White House. The New York Times got a hold of them and published them. And the projections claim 200,000 new infections per day by early June and 3,000 deaths per day in the United States by early June, all from the coronavirus. Now, we disagree with these numbers, and I'll tell you why here. This is Mike Adams. It's May 3rd, pandemic.news update. And I know that you rely on my podcast for good, solid analysis. And you've also probably noticed that I don't play politics with the coronavirus. Whether the analysis is anti-Trump or pro-Trump or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is getting you good, accurate, honest, scientifically valid information that's based on good, solid numbers. So much reporting out there has been mathematically illiterate. It's just astonishing. It's been a parade of bad math across the media. So we work hard to get you correct, accurate numbers. And I have to say right now, I don't think the CDC projections are accurate. However, there is a possibility that they have information that we don't have. Now, what is that? Well, the CDC is tied into the emergency rooms in hospitals all across America. They actually have a data interchange system. It's called their early warning system. And the CDC gets reports of people who come into emergency rooms and show flu-like symptoms, which could be, fever, coughing, and many other symptoms, nausea, and so on. And that early warning system did allow the CDC to sound the alarm about New York City and New Orleans and some other places across the United States several weeks before the outbreaks started to occur there. I mean, the big numbers of hospitalizations and deaths. So the CDC does have data that we don't have. Thus, they have obviously a data advantage. On the other side, the CDC is most definitely anti-Trump in the sense that they hate the fact that Trump is president. And they want him to lose the election in November. And it may be that the CDC is playing a game, kind of a malicious game here, of trying to convince Trump and governors across America to keep the economy locked down longer than is necessary in order to increase the severity of the economic damage that's occurring as a tactic to try to remove Trump from power in the November elections. And frankly, it may work. It might just work. But that could be what the CDC is doing. For the record, my view is that the CDC is a criminal enterprise. Let there be no mistaking that. The CDC is run by crooks, criminals, con artists, fraudsters, evil people. They are vaccine industry front group operatives. They lie. They bury scientific data they don't want the public to see. They commit fraud on a daily basis. So there is no redeeming property of the CDC. They don't have ethics or morality. They don't follow the law. They could do anything. There are no boundaries to their behavior. But that doesn't prove or mean that they have faked these data. So, even though it's an idea here, okay, maybe the CDC is faking all this, there's also the other possibility that they're not faking it and they have more data than we do, okay? So those are the two scenarios that we have to deal with here. And I can't tell you which scenario is true yet. We just don't know. I can only tell you what our numbers say. And our projections disagree with the CDC's new projections by quite a lot. Our projections show that most of May and June will see falling numbers of infections and deaths, substantial declines in those numbers, in fact, and that part of May, but mostly June and July, would be months of complacency where the virus spreads because people are not being careful. And this gets to the problem with the pro-Trump independent media and mainstream media, i.e. Fox News, people like that. Now, you talk about mathematical illiteracy and scientific illiteracy. These people, even across the independent media, in some cases, that these people can't do math. And they still insist falsely that the coronavirus is no worse than the flu. Did you know that as of yesterday, the coronavirus has killed now in America twice as many people as are killed by the flu in an entire year? So we've had basically 2 full years of flu deaths in about 2 months from coronavirus. So just from those numbers alone, you can't say that the coronavirus is no worse than the flu. Again, it's killed more people in 2 months, twice as many people in 2 months than the regular flu kills in an entire year. So, but there are still people out there who say that the coronavirus kills only 1/10 as many people as the flu. But in order to get to that number, you have to use the wrong numbers and do bad math and bad fractions and so on. There's a lot of independent media out there, or conservative media, that are doing that, like the Rush Limbaugh types, and Sean Hannity for a long time was calling this a hoax and so on. Uh, they're just not very bright. That's all I can say. Low IQ. I wouldn't trust them on anything related to numbers, such as finances or the stock market or geopolitics or virology, infections, anything. If it has to do with numbers, don't trust those people, because they have the mathematical literacy of about a fifth grader. That might even be pushing it. In any case, our own projections are far more conservative than what the CDC is now putting out. So our own projections say that we're really not going to see a second wave until August. That's our current standing on this. August is when we'll see the surge coming back. Now, we might be wrong in the sense that we might be too conservative. In other words, our projections are too low or too late. And in fact, if you were to criticize our projections, you would be correct in saying that we have consistently been too low. So in early March, when we projected 46,000 to 91,000 deaths in the United States by the end of July, it's now clear that those projections, even though they're true now, they've come true already, and we're barely into May, but we've already hit, almost 70,000. When I made those projections, I was accused of being a fearmonger and, doom and gloomer, and, oh, that would never happen. There will never be 50,000 people die in America, and so on and so forth. Because at the time I made the projections, I think there were only 3,000 deaths or something. But it was obvious to me where this was going. So we did the spreadsheets, we did the math, we ran the numbers, and came out to 46,000 to 91,000. Well, now it does appear that those numbers may be too small. And by the time we get to the end of July, it's becoming increasingly obvious that we might be at 100,000 deaths. And Trump just said that recently, just yesterday, in fact, on Fox News. It was like a town hall event or something. And he said, yeah, we might get to 100,000 deaths. But he points out it would have been a lot larger without the lockdowns. And he is correct about that point, by the way. However, it's a fair criticism of our projections that we have been consistently too low, not too high. Our projections have never been too high. They've consistently been too low. So if we're projecting right now that the next surge will be in August, it is certainly possible that that surge could happen in July or even in June, as the CDC is now guessing. So it is possible. I tell you, one of the concerning signs right now, I saw a headline today that Texas beaches are packed with people. I guess people who are tired of being locked down, and so now they're just heading out to the beaches. And first of all, the water's filthy in the Gulf of Mexico. You're basically sucking down biosludge, but that's another topic altogether. I would never swim in the Gulf of Mexico. I don't know what these people are thinking. You're basically taking a dip in sewage, okay? But secondly, these people aren't wearing masks, and they're not practicing social distancing and so on. Now, of course, you could say, well, the sunshine kills the virus. Yes, it does, but not if you're standing. Doesn't kill it fast enough if you're standing right next to someone and they're spitting words at you and you're sucking in that spit. The sun doesn't kill the virus in 2 seconds. It probably takes several minutes for UV radiation from the sunlight to completely denature the RNA of the coronavirus. So you can still catch it when you're outdoors. There have been many, many documented cases of how this spreads outdoors. Yes, it spreads indoors more easily, but it doesn't prohibit it from spreading outdoors. So as much as I'd love to see people enjoying the great outdoors and getting some sunshine and things like that, folks, if you don't wear a mask, if you don't practice some basic precautions here, you're just going to end up in a second wave of lockdowns, because it's going to get bad. It's going to surge back. And the CDC, even though I think their numbers are too early and too aggressive, at least where they agree with my own projections, is that yes, a second wave is coming, second wave of lockdowns, second wave of hospitalizations and deaths and so on. And the second wave may very well dwarf the first wave, but my best guess is that the second wave is going to happen more through the fall, more like just getting warmed up in August, and then you'll see it in September, and then accelerating in October, and even more so during November, and so on. But hey, at this point, there are so many factors. It's very hard to project that far into the future. For one thing, it depends on how governors and people respond. So if governors end the lockdowns with precautions, then we may not see a very big surge. But if they end lockdowns without precautions, i.e., hey, it's a free for all, which is what's happening on the Texas beaches right now, then it's going to get bad. It's going to start doubling again about every, well, let's say 3.5 to 7 days. Previously in the United States, it was doubling every 3.5 days. That could resume. We could be back to that exponential growth rate again. And then you have to ask the question, how willing are the American people to go under a new round of lockdowns, along with all the economic devastation that will entail? And I'm here to tell you, I don't think the American people are going to go into a second round of lockdowns. I think there are a lot of people who have suffered so much already, mentally, psychologically, economically, losing their livelihoods, losing their small businesses, losing not just their jobs, but their careers, their businesses, and so on. I think that quite a few people are at the tipping point where they would rather die than go through another lockdown. And that means they may be willing to fight for, freedom, what they're calling freedom. Although I say, hey, fight for freedom, but wear a mask, fight for freedom and public health at the same time. But some people may pass the tipping point where they engage in an armed uprising, which I am not advocating, of course, but an armed uprising against the lockdown orders. Now, I can see this happening nationwide in many areas simultaneously. And I can see this being led by the pro-Trump people, the pro-liberty people, who I would normally be right in line with. But on this issue, they're wrong for not wearing masks and not taking precautions. I mean, yes, they're right about the importance of individual liberty and economic freedom and so on, but the only way to beat this virus, and I've said this over and over again, is to exercise caution. Take the nutrients, boost your immune function, wear a mask, practice social distancing. We have to pull together and not just cause chaos in the streets. I mean, look, I have for many years thought that America was headed into a civil war, but I thought that war would be between the left and the right, Antifa versus patriots. Now it looks like it's going to be patriots versus police, I mean, that's how this is kind of shaping up, which is crazy because most patriots are pro law enforcement and a lot of cops and sheriffs are patriots. So what's this going to look like? I don't know. Really not sure, but you can bet that CNN is going to make patriots look like terrorists by the time this whole thing is over. I mean, they're already running articles like armed protesters at the state courthouse or Capitol building in Michigan. They were armed. You hear this in the media. My God, they had guns. Well, so what? I mean, we all carry guns all the time. I'm a concealed carry person all the time. To me, that's not unusual. I don't feel afraid of people carrying guns. It actually makes me feel kind of safer. What worries me is if they start shooting police or something, then we have a real uprising, blood in the streets problem. Because Antifa is who attacks police, not patriots. I don't want to see cops and patriots clashing. I don't want to see anybody clashing. I don't want to see blood spilled in the streets. It's just that this seems like that's where it's headed. Now, you won't see me out there protesting that because I'm abiding by the lockdowns. You know what? We should be protesting against many things, but the lockdowns is not the right topic, in my opinion. We should be protesting against the fake currency Federal Reserve looting all the money of the nation. We should be protesting against the CDC being run by Big Pharma and Dr. Fauci, a criminal in charge at the White House. We should be protesting against Big Pharma and the NIH and the death science industry. We should be protesting against communism and how it's taken over the media and the schools and, the tech giants. We should be protesting against censorship of big tech. I mean, we should be marching anywhere. We should be marching against Google. I've called for the arrest of those CEOs and the dismantling of the tech giants. That's what I'd like to see in a peaceful manner, but not protesting out in public and pretending the virus isn't real. That's not, I'm sorry, that's absurd. And it's a waste of a good protest. If you're going to protest, folks, pick the right topics. Don't protest against, a virus that's very real. Pick the right topics. That's all I'm saying. In any case, this is Mike Adams here for pandemic.news. Check out the website for more podcasts. Thank you for listening. When it comes to prepping, you not only need good products that can help keep you alive, awake, aware, and nourished during difficult times, you also need products you can trust. At the Health Ranger store, we do extensive laboratory testing using an in-house lab that's ISO accredited. It's inspected, it's audited. It's a 2-year process to even get that accreditation. We use multiple mass spec instruments, state-of-the-art science. I'm a published science author as well and a patent holder on several technologies, some of which we use variations of in our lab. The purpose of this lab is to help you make sure you get clean foods, superfoods, storable foods for emergency preparedness and survival use. We have a certified organic lab-tested, what's called Ranger Bucket collection of storable foods with some survival gear in the buckets to help you even boil water and cook those foods and so on. It's a fantastic product. We can barely keep it in stock even during normal times. In a crisis, we'll be wiped out of this product because it actually takes us a lot of time to make those products. But if they're in stock, you can get them now at healthrangerstore.com/prepwithmike. In fact, go to that URL, healthrangerstore.com/prepwithmike, and you'll see some of our survival and preparedness supplies, including iodine, colloidal silver products and gel first aid products, storable foods, superfoods, medicinal herbs for first aid, and much more. We have a lot of products for you to help you be self-reliant, to be safe, to survive difficult circumstances, natural disasters, and all kinds of things. If you want to get prepared, do it with us at the Health Ranger store so that you know you're getting safe, clean, laboratory-verified preparedness foods, supplements, and other related products. Again, the URL is healthrangerstore.com/prepwithmike. All one word, no spaces. Prep with Mike. I'm Mike Adams. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. If you want to support our mission, visit us at healthrangerstore.com for the world's largest selection of lab-verified superfood and nutritional products for healthy living. It's at healthrangerstore.com.